Sheriff, I don't mean any disrespect, but you ought to be ashamed of that. How can you possibly be for public safety if you hate our immigration laws so much that you would let a convicted murderer back on the street? Do you really hate immigration laws that much?
Senator, it's not a matter of that I hate immigration law.
You could have fooled me, Sheriff.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Yeah.
Prior to that, it was not state law, which I follow and all my deputies follow.
Sure.
And so now we do make that second phone call. But ICE agents are notified whenever someone is entered processed into my jail.
Do you need some water? Because I think your pants are on fire.
Okay.
What started as a routine Senate hearing on immigration enforcement and public safety quickly spiraled into one of the most explosive exchanges in recent memory. During a tense back and forth, Senator John Kennedy took aim at Durham County Sheriff Clarence Birkhead, grilling him over his past refusal to cooperate with ICE and his stance on federal immigration law. But what followed wasn't just a policy debate. It turned into a full-blown confrontation, exposing a deep divide over public safety, accountability, and the role of immigration enforcement in America. And then came the moment that changed everything. Watch closely, because the next line of questioning flipped the entire exchange.
Sheriff, you're Sheriff of Durham County?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful parish. Or we call our counties parishes, beautiful county. Is it at least part of your job to protect the public?
Yes, it is.
Okay. You believe that vetting people at the border is racist, do you not?
I'm sorry?
You believe that vetting people at the border is racist, do you not?
No, I've never said that. I believe that having secure borders is important, and we have processes that allow individuals to come into the country the right way. Absolutely.
You believe that people should be able to violate federal immigration laws without consequences, don't you?
No, sir, I do not. I believe that anyone who violates federal or state law needs to be held accountable, and there need to be consequences.
You don't believe in cooperating with ICE, do you?
I believe in cooperating with federal authorities, as I do. A number of federal agencies I cooperate with, and I certainly would cooperate with ICE if they would cooperate with me.
Okay. You were elected in 2018, Sheriff, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. On April 18, 2018, you gave an interview with a media organization called Indie Week. Do you remember that?
I'm familiar with the paper, yes.
Okay. Here's what you said. I'm quoting you, your words, not mine. I disagree with the incumbent sheriffs. That's the guy you beat. With the incumbent sheriff's cooperation with ICE. I will make a clear and uncompromising commitment to not cooperate with ICE. As sheriff, I will not honor ICE detainers, and we will not participate in ICE roundups, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In April of last year, you spoke to a group of ICE employees. Do you remember that?
Not particularly, no.
Okay, well, there was an article in a media organization, a media entity called the Assembly. Are you familiar with them? Do you remember?
I've heard of the Assembly, yes.
Yeah, do you remember giving them an interview?
I give several interviews.
Sure.
I actually don't remember that particular one, but I'm...
Okay. Well, here's what you said in the interview, apparently on the record. these ICE employees that you spoke to, you were referencing them, and you said, quote, they, these ICE officials, asked me, so Sheriff, if someone is about to be released from your jail and the detainer is about to expire, you will call us and let us know? What was my answer? You said, no, because that's not what the law says. No, I will not call ICE. End quote. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
And, sir, Senator, that was before the new law, which is now House Bill 318, which requires me to make that second phone call.
Right. Yeah.
Prior to that, it was not state law, which I follow and all my deputies follow.
Sure.
And so now we do make that second phone call. But ICE agents are notified whenever someone is entered processed into my jail.
Do you need some water? Because I think your pants are on fire.
Okay.
Do you remember a gentleman by the name of Carlos Heriberto Mendoza Martinez?
Not right off, sir, no.
Okay. Sheriff, you should. He was in our country illegally from Mexico. He was in a street gang. Back in Mexico, he was convicted of manslaughter. And he was in your jail. And because in 2021 and 2024, Mr. Martinez was arrested for assaulting a woman and domestic violence. And ICE placed a detainer on this guy because he was in our country illegally. And he was a criminal. And he was in your jail. And you wouldn't honor that detainer, would you?
I can't say that I did not honor the detainer.
I can.
I can say what I did honor was the conditions of the release that were issued by a judge. And so therefore, and once again, ICE was notified that they could come pick up this individual.
Do you really believe in public safety?
Yes, sir, I do.
You would allow someone in our country, illegally, convicted of manslaughter, convicted of domestic violence, in your jail. ICE says, please hold him when his time is up. We want to get this criminal out of our country. And you said no?
ICE was notified that they could come pick up the individual, and for some reason they did not. And the judge issued the conditions of release. I am a custodian. I do not determine who is released or held. I follow the court's order.
Sheriff, I don't mean any disrespect, but you ought to be ashamed of that. How can you possibly be for public safety if you hate our immigration laws so much that you would let a convicted murderer back on the street? Do you really hate immigration laws that much?
Senator, it's not a matter of that I hate immigration law.
You could have fooled me, Sheriff.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your service. You're now in charge. I got to go vote.
This wasn't just a routine hearing. It was a moment that left the entire room stunned. Because what started as a standard line of questioning quickly turned into a brutal face-off as Senator John Kennedy went straight at a county sheriff and didn't let up. And by the end of it, one question was hanging in the air. Did this sheriff just get exposed, or was something deeper being ignored? Because this isn't just about one sheriff or one case. This is about a much bigger national debate: immigration enforcement. Across the United States, there's been a growing divide between federal immigration authorities, like ICE, and local law enforcement agencies. Some jurisdictions, often called sanctuary policies, limit how much local police cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. Supporters say it builds trust with immigrant communities, but critics argue something very different. They say it creates gaps where dangerous individuals can slip through the cracks. And at the center of that debate is one key issue: ICE detainers. Requests asking local jails to hold someone a little longer so federal agents can take custody. simple on paper, but in reality, highly controversial. Because many local officials argued they're not legally required to honor those requests, especially without a judge's order. And that's exactly where this story begins. Enter Clarence Birkhead. Back in 2018, he made his position crystal clear. No cooperation with ICE detainers, no participation in raids, no going beyond state law. At the time, that stance won him support, but now those same words came back to haunt him, and Senator Kennedy was ready. He didn't ease into it. He went straight for the pressure points. First, questioning whether the sheriff truly believed in enforcing immigration laws. Then, pulling up past statements, word for word. No room to spin it, no room to escape it. And just when it seemed like the sheriff might hold his ground, Kennedy dropped the statement that changed everything. "Do you need some water? Because I think your pants are on fire." Now that line didn't come out of nowhere. It came right after Kennedy exposed what he saw as a clear contradiction. On one hand, past interviews where the sheriff openly refused to cooperate with ICE. On the other, his testimony now suggesting compliance and cooperation. To Kennedy, that didn't add up. And in that moment, this stopped being about policy. It became about credibility. And from there, the tone shifted fast. Now this wasn't just questioning, it was confrontation. Kennedy brought up a specific case, an immigrant in the country illegally, a violent past, including manslaughter and domestic violence, someone who had been in the sheriff's jail. ICE, according to Kennedy, issued a detainer. They wanted him held, but he wasn't. That's when the exchange hit its peak. The sheriff responded sharply. He said he followed the law, followed court orders, that ICE was notified and had the opportunity to act, that his role wasn't to decide but to comply with judicial rulings. But Kennedy wasn't buying it. To him, this wasn't about technicalities. It was about consequences. He presented it as a breakdown in public safety, a system where someone dangerous was released despite warnings. Kennedy didn't hold back. He told the sheriff he ought to be ashamed, questioned whether he truly cared about public safety, and asked directly, "Do you really hate immigration laws that much?" At that point, this wasn't just a hearing anymore. It was a clash of two completely different worldviews. One focused on legal boundaries and local authority, the other focused on enforcement and risk prevention. And in the middle, real-world consequences. Because cases like this aren't theoretical. They affect real people, real communities. And that's why moments like this hit so hard. Because depending on where you stand, you either see a sheriff following the law or a system that failed to act when it mattered most. So now the question is, was Senator John Kennedy exposing a dangerous contradiction, or was Clarence Birkhead simply doing his job within the limits of the law? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you want more breakdowns like this, where we cut through the noise and get straight to the heart of the matter, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one.